Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados.
Because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Meredith.
Welcome to episode 116 of Adventures and Mousecapades. This week, we are questioning whether it's the smartest idea to schedule a podcast recording session right after someone gets off of a 6-hour transcontinental flight.
Yeah. Oops. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
You had an hour to chill.
Yeah, I had a sandwich.
Uh-huh.
I got to sit down and I got to, while I was trying to relax, write a bunch of questions out with your help, Alicia. So thank you. We prepare really hard for these, really hard, really far in advance for these interviews. So
sometimes we do, yes. Sometimes we don't.
Well, you may remember those voices you heard from episode 91 after their first cruise on the Disney Wish. Well, we've got Rachel and Mare back on the show because they've just returned from an absolutely epic month-long vacation to Australia, Hawaii, and the South Pacific. We're going to focus on their 2-week cruise from Sydney to Honolulu on the beautiful Disney Wonder. Well, welcome back to the States.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get this out of the way first. Was it an amazing cruise?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm like, we have to go back to work, and now I'm like, back to reality, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
What was the itinerary? How many nights was it, and where did you stop?
So it was 14 or 15. It was technically 15 nights. It departed from Sydney, Australia, ended in Honolulu, Hawaii, and on the way we stopped at Noumea, New Caledonia. We went to Suva, Fiji. We went to Pago Pago and American Samoa, and then we stopped at Maui. The name of the port is escaping me, but it was in Maui.
I think it's Kahului.
Yes, that's it,
Yeah.
Kahului.
Yeah.
And then we crossed the international date line, so we got to live the 22nd of February twice.
Oh,
so
fun.
Epic all around.
Wait, and it's a leap year. You had 30 days in February.
Mm-hmm. We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's our new trivia question, really, for the rest of our lives. You know, when you normally have to do like 2 truths and a lie. I lived 30 days in February, and you can't prove me wrong.
That's very true. That's awesome. That's so cool.
That's cool.
We'll kind of gloss over it. Y'all flew from Orlando to Sydney in an epic 24-hour journey that doesn't need to be rehashed because that just sounds like a very long airplane flight or two.
Longest flight of my life. Yes.
Yeah. You had a couple, 3 or 4 days in Sydney before the cruise?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you did lots of touristy stuff and...
Yeah. Opera House, kangaroos, koala bears. We did the touristy stuff.
I heard there was a wombat thing.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I saw the picture of the wombat. You smiling with the wombat.
Wombats are adorable. They're big potatoes.
Yeah, they look like big potatoes, like waddling around the grass.
They do look like furry big potatoes, yes.
Okay, so Sydney embarkation, when these cruises, especially on Disney, but kind of anywhere, go out of a random port that doesn't get a lot of traffic ordinarily, it can be a bit of a
cluster.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
How was embarkation and all that in Sydney?
Well, so I'm flashing back for 4 years, right? When we went with you on the Panama out of New Orleans, and we were like, we're in New Orleans. We're going to spend every breath we can in New Orleans before we get on the ship. We felt more comfortable doing that in New Orleans because I knew the city and we knew we could get to the port.
Yeah.
Sydney was a little bit different. We could see the ship, but we were still like, how do we get there? What's going on?
Yeah.
So we twisted Mare's arm and she held her breath and we pushed the limit on that day and we did as much as we could that morning.
Okay.
We went out to Bondi Beach.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I know we did a lot. And then our driver that was actually our previous driver from the tour guide on another day, he picked us up and the boys begged him to take them to KFC. You heard that, right? KFC. And so we went and we tailgated a KFC on our way to the port.
As you do in Australia. Okay.
So, yes, they insisted that Australian KFC was so much better than American KFC. And we needed to verify whether it was correct. So we had to go and try it. And I will attest that it is much better in Australia.
Oh, nice. All right.
It was delicious.
There was something about like 2 of the original 13 spices are taken out of it. So there's just 11. And evidently that was a good change. So
it was delicious. And then he took us to the port. And so to answer your question, it was much like New Orleans. We were the only ones there. Okay. We walked in, everyone like clamored to get our luggage because they were standing around board.
Right.
And we walked right up to the desk and they handled our check-in information and we literally walked on the ship.
What time was that at?
1.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 1 in the afternoon. It wasn't like terribly late. It wasn't like minutes before boarding time, but everyone on our cruise seemed very eager to get on board as soon as possible. So we were definitely one of the last ones to board. There was not very many people in the terminal. I do feel like it was very well staffed, but I could see if we had come earlier, it would have been a little bit messier. So we did make a good choice in going a little bit later, letting the crowds get on, and then it was a very smooth process for us.
Well, especially if you're going to be like on a 14/15 day or night cruise, you don't really matter if you're like missed 2 hours of being on the ship because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If
you
you're
already
on
got lunch.
Right, exactly.
Right. We already got lunch and the ship was going to have the same chicken tenders for the next 15 days.
Yes.
So, leaving Sydney itself was beautiful.
That's what I was going to say.
All the pictures.
Did they do anything special for you leaving? Because I know that was like the last trip out of Sydney till whenever they do it again.
Yeah. So the port that we were leaving out of, it was surrounded by residential areas. So there were a lot of houses and whatnot. So there were noise restrictions until we actually left port. So they couldn't do the traditional sail away where they do the party and say, "Yay, you're on vacation," and we pull away from the dock like we have in past ones. So we pulled away in silence. There was no deck party, but we sailed under the Sydney Harbor Bridge and past the Sydney Opera House. And so as we sailed under the bridge, they played the horn like 5 times, and it was amazing. People were stopping on the bridge to look down. So that was pretty epic. And then an hour or 2 later, after we were out in open seas, they did the sail away party.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. You had how many days at sea first off?
2.
Okay.
So day 2 and day 3 were fully at sea. And then day 4, we were in Caledonia, New Caledonia.
Okay. Any highlights from those first days at sea?
The one thing that was I was in a pub crawl. So we were part of the Facebook group and someone who on their own organized a pub crawl day. And so we were each given like these passports that we could follow along. And the goal was to drink a beverage from every single bar on board. And we successfully completed that.
But I think you went backwards, right? In the order.
Yeah. We went backwards so that we could avoid the crowds.
Yeah.
We did meet up with him a couple times and we got to meet the guy who organized it. It was a really cool event, but there were so many people and some of those venues are so small that we were like, absolutely not. Like, no, we're going to do it our own way.
That passport looked really cool. Yeah. That was like legitimately, somebody went out and had that printed.
And then we got medals too for drinking.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. So Noumea was the first port?
Yes, it was. We, with the exception of Maui, Bill and Rachel and Andrew and I booked separate excursions for all of them. There were different things that we wanted to do. So Andrew and I and Numia, it was a scenic tour through the city. And then there was a wine and cheese tasting. They took us to a local restaurant. We got to taste some wines and pair them with cheese. The scenic part of it, in my opinion, there was one stop. They took us up to this hilltop and we got to take some pretty pictures. It was a beautiful view. We got to see the ship. But I was envisioning that there would be more stops.
Yeah.
It was pretty much that one stop and then the wine and cheese, which was very good wine, very good cheese. So we enjoyed it. But I think Bill and Rachel's tour was a little bit better in Numia.
Got it.
Rach, what did you guys do?
Yeah, it was called the Best of Numia, I believe. And we had a couple more stops than they did. We got to see an aquarium. So we got to walk through that, and then a scenic church we got to walk through, and then a couple more just views of, and like the pictures don't do it justice. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of excursions available for that stop?
No.
Okay.
I think it was definitely one that's not normally a cruise port.
Yeah.
We were docked in a shipping area. There were the shipping containers everywhere. So you literally had to get off the ship and get straight on a bus because there was active, work being done around. And so there were only a couple of excursions. They all booked up pretty quickly. There was a shuttle that would take you downtown to like where the shopping was. We were there on a Monday, and apparently on Monday, a lot of businesses are closed. So that kind of put a kink in things as well. Yeah. But it was a beautiful port. Even just driving around was really, really pretty. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not a normal cruise port, I don't think.
No, I think a lot of these islands that you went through, and there's a few others that different cruise lines hit, because there's basically this little mini fleet from 5 or 6 different cruise lines that they have some ships that go and do Alaska out of either Seattle or Vancouver, and then they all transit within this 3 or 4 week period through Hawaii, through the South Pacific, and then often do stuff down in like Australia or whatnot, and then come back in the end. So there's only a few times a year that these places are going to get a ship in, so they don't have that super touristy infrastructure like right at a port that you're used to seeing in, like, I don't know, Nassau comes to mind, where they've just completely catered a whole area to cruise ships. That doesn't exist. So okay,
yeah. The one bit of feedback I would give, and if anyone's listening to this that's going to cruise again, in this port particular, they were very cautious of the safety regulations. And so the bus that took you to downtown picked up from the aft. It did not pick up from forward. And so if you got off the ship on forward, you could not walk down to get on the bus. You had to get back on the ship and go back to aft and then get back off. So very strict rules.
So yeah, that actually happened to us. Bill and Rachel were dropped off from their tour right by the shuttles. So it was maybe an hour or two that they had before we had to be back on the ship. So they were able to get right on the bus. We were ones that were dropped off at forward, and we tried to walk back to get to the shuttle to go downtown. And they said, no, absolutely not. You have to get back on the ship and check back in. But we had to walk the length of the ship on board. So we had to go upstairs, over, back down. And we were like, it's just not worth it. So we didn't get the opportunity to go back into town after our excursion because of that.
Did Disney explicitly call out like, hey, the shuttle's only going to be from, aft? It just, they did not. Yikes.
No, there were people on our tour that were very unhappy with that because our tour guide said, oh no, you have to get back on board. And she's like, I'm really sorry. The Disney cast member here is telling me you have to. So people were getting upset with our tour guide when it was Disney that was regulating that. And no, they did not tell the tour guide or the bus to drop us off back there so that we could get on the shuttle. So there was some confusion there for sure.
Well, I'm sure it's not Disney just making up a rule. I'm sure it's the port telling them, no, you can't have people walking around on the
for
quay,
sure.
so.
Yeah, they were very, very strict.
That makes sense, especially since it's a working port and there are containers all around. Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was your next port?
The next place we went to was Fiji. But real quick, I'm going to go back to day 5 at sea. It was rough seas. It was rough.
Okay.
And Miss Meredith was in her room most of the day.
Aww.
But she showed up for mixology at 3:00 like a trooper. and then went back to bed.
I'm not missing the opportunity for some good cocktails, man.
No,
I'm not going to miss it.
Right.
Was
That's
that
amazing. And it's also on brand for pretty much everybody on this call. So
That was actually one of my questions is how were the seas? Is it just that one day or were there other rough sea days?
For the most part, it was not bad. Our longest span was 5 days at sea. And I think because I don't know if it was the speed or just the captain did a great job of being strategic about it, but that was the only day that I was really affected. There were a couple days it was a little iffy, but I put sea bands on and I was fine.
Got
But
it.
that day, I think we were going over some deep waters, and the waves were really choppy. Even with the sea bands, I eventually halfway through the day broke down and took some bonine, and that helped. But the sea bands weren't touching it. But every other day, sea bands were fine. So that was really the only day where we had really bad water.
Got it. All right. So on to Fiji.
Fiji.
Yeah. Rachel, you look like you
Can I
have
just-
something to share.
I'll just start and be very positive.
Yeah.
Fiji is Fiji. I got to swim in Fiji water, so I can say I was kind of a survivor. And that's really all I wanted in my life was to swim in the same waters that the survivors do.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about Fiji. So there you go.
All righty then.
I think Fiji is the flip of Numia, where I think Bill and Rachel had the better excursion in Numia. Andrew and I really enjoyed our excursion in Fiji. We took a bus to one of the small villages, and the village there basically hosted us. We got to ride longboats down the river and see, like, it was green on either side, just forests and trees, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then they dropped us off. We hiked a little bit to a waterfall. You could swim in the waterfall if you wanted. And then you took the boats back to the village and they hosted us there. They had, there's this drink that they make called kava, which is basically just dirty water. It's gross, but it's their traditional thing. And they had a whole ceremony that they did for us. And then they cooked us lunch. And so they made sandwiches like Subway style, or they had all of their traditional food as well, so that you could try, however much you wanted.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was fantastic. And then we took the bus back to the ship, and that you did have time to walk around if you wanted. Andrew and I were exhausted, so we just got back on board. But it was an amazing day. It was beautiful. The boats were really fun. We really, really enjoyed our tour.
What's the authentic Fiji food like? Like, can you share a few examples?
Yeah, there was like some curries. They had something that they made with pumpkin. There was greens that looked similar to almost like a collard green. It was their version of that.
Yeah.
But it was like a green chicken curry that was fantastic, and it was all over rice. And they encouraged you to they put a little bit of everything on your plate, even if you were hesitant. They were like, just try it.
Yeah.
And it was all delicious. There was a noodle salad that I think Andrew would have had a whole plate of if he could. It was all very, very good. But yeah, curries and things like that.
Cool. All right, Rachel. So what did you guys get up to?
We took a bus to a local resort. It was about an hour and 15-minute drive each way. And you got to see the real sights of Fiji, like the guts of Fiji along the way. It wasn't all pretty, right? Which I don't expect every place to be, but I don't know, wasn't what I expected.
Yeah. I think I remember you saying that the tour guide on that bus was like, look, here's the men's prison and here's the women's prison. And
we did get that tour as well. We did as well.
Nice. Well, good. I mean, we wouldn't want you to lose out on that experience.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the mental hospital and here's where the squatters live. And it was just very not what I expected.
Yeah.
And then the resort itself was not very well kept up. You could tell they struggled, obviously, to get through COVID. Like the pool needed to be resurfaced. They needed a bartender. Like there were certain things.
Yeah.
But I got in the ocean, right? We made the best of it. And then we went back to the ship. And then I've seen Fiji. I'm good.
There you go.
People were asking on our bus because on the way back, ours was about a 40-minute drive to the village. And so on the way back, they said, any questions you have? And so people were asking about where are the white sand beaches and things like that. And they were saying, yeah, that's the west side of the island. So we were originally slotted to go to kind of the west side of the island. And I don't know why they changed it, but they did change it a couple months before our cruise left. And they said we're going to Suva instead. So I don't know why that change happened, but I think we were originally supposed to go to what people envision with Fiji, with the white sand beaches and all the glamorous resorts. So that was not the side that we went to.
Did the excursions change as a product of that, or were they the same excursions offered before?
They changed it before the excursions came out.
Okay.
So it was before you could book excursions is when that changed. So we never saw what would have been or could have been our excursions.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a disappointment, but I'm sure there are parts of Fiji that are beautiful. We just didn't see those.
Right. What was after Fiji?
International Dateline Day.
Okay.
Was there a special ceremony for this or anything?
Not for that.
Yeah, I think it was just reliving the day. So we woke up and we lived all of February 22nd, and then we woke up the next day and we did it all again.
So how did that work for like booking Palo and stuff like that?
It didn't. It broke the system.
Yeah. And basically anything that 22nd, you had to book on board. Like the system could not comprehend. So they added tastings, they added activities and things, and even the planner, you couldn't see that second day literally until midnight on that 22nd. And they said, we're going to hit reset on the Navigator app and you'll be able to see all the new activities. But then they also delivered a one-time only printed Navigator to our rooms. And they delivered it, and I put air quotations because Andrew and I got it in our room every day. Rachel was so excited. She's like, we get a printed Navigator, and they delivered it. And I said, this has been in our room every day. I don't know why this is so special. So apparently our stateroom attendant was amazing.
Wow.
She gave us one every day.
That's cool.
Well, at least they're printing them out again, because there was, for a while, they weren't even doing that.
Well, they're usually down at guest services. You just have to go down and get it.
Yeah, it's just a one pager. It's not the big fancy one that they used to do.
Right. But like there was a period of time where they were saying, no, we're not printing any. Because I remember people like having a cow of like, well, look, my grandmother doesn't have a phone. Like, yeah. So
that was
at least that was you. You didn't have a phone. Is that what we were saying?
No, I didn't want to use my phone. I wanted to use the Navigator. And then, anyway.
Yeah.
But side note, for the rest of the trip, so now we're on the 22nd, for the rest of the trip, the elevators no longer knew the day of the week or the date either. Everything got messed up. And when we got off the ship, it said the wrong date. We don't know.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious. All right. So after the second 22nd, then what?
We did Pago Pago.
Pago.
I will let Rachel go first because she had an amazing excursion.
Yeah.
Okay. American Samoa, otherwise known as Pago Pago. You can picture Moana, but like a real life version of Moana. Like it is breathtaking. Yeah. Every single turn we took was more beautiful than the last. Like I cannot make it up. But more so than that, the people were beautiful. Their generosity, their patience, their welcome. They just wanted to welcome us to their beautiful island. And they wanted to, they wanted to celebrate us, and they wanted us to like get to know them and their culture and their island.
Yeah. And
it was so transparent in every word that came out of their mouth. And it just made me fall in love with the entire island itself. It was great.
That's awesome.
Our excursion, we hopped on I guess if we want to call it a bus, it was kind of like a...
it was like a wooden shell on top of a truck. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we're sure. We'll call them buses.
Sure.
Like plywood. Yeah, picture some plywood with a... Yep, that's what it was. And they warned us about it. They warned us.
Yeah.
Open air bus is what they called it. Yes.
Yeah.
Which was fine when you were moving because the breeze and just it was great.
Yeah.
So ours was the first excursion to leave. So they had all these buses lined up in a line, and ours was the first one. So we hopped on and went. Like we didn't have to wait on anything.
Yeah.
Went to a woman's house in the middle of the jungle, and she welcomed us into her house where she has an art studio, and walked us around the grounds and showed us things. basically they were taking fruit off the trees and cutting it for us to like try right then and there.
Right.
And we got to take part in the art. So we got to make our own artwork. And learn what their symbols mean, and everything we used from the paper to the brushes was all found on their land.
Wow.
And getting to learn the history of how what they do on a daily basis, and the art that is encompassing of this island and what the symbols stand for. It was amazing. It was an amazing morning. These people, again, were just so beautiful. And Phil and I loved that whole day, but and we got to bring artwork home, so it was like a double whammy. But I would go back in a heartbeat, and just like the people were amazing.
And this was a Disney excursion, like
yes.
all these were. Yeah, okay.
Yes. I died on that sword. We normally are not big on Disney excursions. You know, they're probably a little bit pricier. They don't have as many options to choose from depending on what you want to do. Especially if I'm going to an island like, say, Cozumel, where we've been several times, I'm going to do my own thing, right?
Right.
I also know what the expectation is and when I need to get back to the ship.
Right.
I was not going to get left in American Samoa. However, I would have been okay with it after being there.
You were not going to get left in Fiji.
I was not going to get left in Fiji. You know, if the bus breaks down or something like that and you're on a Disney excursion, Disney's going to wait for you.
Right.
If you're on your own, sorry, the ship is leaving. And so I fought for it. I will say it may have been a little pricier, but the organization and you didn't have any stress of the day of. Disney took care of all of it. Like, show up in the Walt Disney Theater. We're going to give you this little sticker, and you're going to sit in the air conditioning until your bus is ready. And when your bus is ready, then we're going to walk you down the stairs right off the ship. Like, we didn't wait in the line of everybody else.
Yeah.
You get right off the ship, you get on your bus, and you're on your way. And we will see you when you come back. Like, it was just so well organized and structured, and I forgot about that part. So I was on board.
Mare, what did you and Doc do?
So we did sort of like a best of type tour, and ironically, it was a very large group of us. I think there were about 8 buses that were all just kind of caravanning around the island. And one of the buses did break down. So ironically, those folks, fortunately, it was not our bus, but they were very glad that, we were on a Disney excursion. But we got to drive up into the mountains, and where we had seen in Fiji a kava ceremony, we saw an ava ceremony in American Samoa, which was the exact same thing. They just call it something a little different. And then we got to drive, I think we drove almost the entire perimeter of the island. And like Rachel said, every turn you took, it was more beautiful. The water was gorgeous. The greenery, everything. It was just beautiful. And so we got to stop at a couple places that were some of their landmarks and take pictures and learn a little bit of the history. And then they got us back to the ship with a couple of hours to spare. So this was the one island where we did get off and walk around a little bit. We ran into Bill and Rachel, and they had found this delicious restaurant not very far from the ship. So we took their recommendation and went and had lunch. And you could see there were some of the crew that were there and some locals. So, it was a good place. Had an amazing lunch and then did a little shopping and got back on the ship.
Nice. After Pago Pago, American Samoa, a couple days at sea. Is that right?
5.
So a couple. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this the long haul off to Hawaii?
Yes.
Got it.
Over fairly deep waters.
Yeah. This was also where we crossed the equator.
Did they do a ceremony for the equator?
Oh, they did.
Oh, what did they do?
They did a couple things. During the day, they called it King's Triton's...
I have it written down.
There you go.
King Triton's Royal Trials of Equatorial Crossing.
Yes.
So...
Okay.
They had it was a deck party on the deck during the day, and anybody who had not crossed the equator on a ship is considered a polywog. And once you have crossed the equator, you become a
shellback.
There you go. Thank you, shellback. And so they acknowledged anybody. A lot of them were naval veterans and whatnot who had completed that crossing. And then anybody else who had not could participate in the activities. And They were the Disney-fied version of, I think, things that they do in the Navy.
Yeah, I was going to say the naval veterans, the first time when they went from polywogs to shellbacks, had a very different experience from what anybody on that Disney ship had.
100%.
Guaranteed.
There were some friends that Andrew knew who were on the ship with us, and the husband was a naval veteran, and he said, "Yeah, I've already been initiated, and I'm pretty sure my experience is going to be very different than this. So we're not going to go to the deck show." We said, "Well, we understand."
Yeah.
But they did some fun activities, and there was a lot of people. They did limbo, and they did something with water squirting and all kinds of stuff. So we stood on the 10th deck and just watched, but that was really cute and a really fun way to initiate everyone into out of polywogs. So that was fun.
And then they did a deck party at night, similar to how they do Pirates deck party. The update on the TVs, it kept telling us the tentative crossing time. And I'm not going to lie, the captain was kind of all over the place. It was like 6 in the morning, and then it was like midnight, and then it was back to 2 in the morning. Like, I don't drive the ship, so I'm not going to make any acquisitions, but what?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had said, we're going to have this deck party. It's going to be great. But just to be transparent, this is not when we're crossing the equator. We'll tell you when we're actually crossing the equator if you want to get up and, be on deck when we do it. But it's not going to line up. Well, little Disney magic or, little finagling. I don't know. But it did line up, actually.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we were supposed to cross at 10:30, right? They started the deck party at 10:15. And this
is at night. This is PM, right?
PM. Yes. So everyone's up on deck 9 and 10. We grabbed a bucket of drinks. We were prepared.
Yeah.
Everyone had their phone out with a little compass, and they were trying to track it because we were we're not. You're not going to pull one over on us. We know where we are.
Right.
And then the poor crew, they were just trying to stall. So they thought we were going to go early, and then they were like, "Oh, we haven't. Nope. Let's do the YMCA." They didn't know what to do. Which we just laughed because they were definitely stalling. The ship almost came to a halt. He slowed it down, and then he turned it around. And I don't know if this is tradition or either. And then you could feel the engines or the rudders, trying its hardest to keep the ship where it was.
It almost felt like he was side hopping to get onto the equator. You felt the whole ship bump, and we're all right, okay.
Yeah, and then they finally got to the point where the cruise director and stuff were on stage, and they were stalling. Yeah. So they were on the radio, I'm guessing, with the pilot or captain, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they did a countdown. So then the whole screen went to a countdown, and they showed the graphic of the cruise ship crossing a big red line. It was awesome. And then when we crossed it, which we went aft first,
right?
That's when he turned it around.
Yeah.
Back in.
They did the whole fireworks show.
Oh,
and it was amazing. It was emotional. It was, they played all the right music. What was it? Something from Peter Pan, and then Aladdin, and they nailed it.
Moana,
and I literally was in tears.
Yeah. And then they ended with When You Wish Upon a Star. It was really well done.
Cool.
Disney knows how to get you in the feels.
Yep.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Any other highlights on those 5 days, kind of onboard activities or anything notable kind of happened? We'll go through, some food and we have a few other questions about, some special folks who may or may not have been on board and things like that. But just kind of from an activities perspective, any highlights?
Nothing I think out of the there was bingo. There were other the one cool thing I think about this cruise was because we were sailing to Honolulu, a lot of people were getting off and going to Aulani. They actually had 3 cast members from Aulani on board for the whole cruise, and they did a lot of presentations. So they did hula lessons many times during the cruise. They did ribbon lay making, and they had all the ribbons and taught you how to make ribbon lays.
Oh, wow.
They did a storytelling thing. So there were a lot of those sessions that I had never seen before because we were heading to Hawaii So you could learn a lot about the Hawaiian culture and about Aulani. So that was pretty cool. So we did, on those 5 days, we went to the last lei making session and sort of learned. I don't think I really mastered it, but tried to learn how to make our own ribbon leis, which was pretty cool.
I mean, we did massages. We took part in the spa, right? Rainforest room. Like she said, bingo. We like to play games. So like Bill played Monopoly, cards. We basically filled our days. Don't worry. But we were also trying really hard to stay just really relaxed. And I think we succeeded.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now you had one stop in Hawaii before Honolulu. You hit Maui, right?
Yes.
How was Maui?
We did the one thing I wanted on my bucket list. So all four of us wrote things down before when we started planning this.
Yeah.
What is it that you have to do to like feel like you did this trip? And mine was the volcano. So we went and did the volcano. Yes.
Yeah.
In Maui, and it was breathtaking. It's beautiful. We were above the clouds. Like I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah. It's just a hair. It's like 10,075 feet or something like that. Like it's over 10,000, but it's pretty special. But you guys were on a tour bus going up all those switchbacks and then down all those switchbacks.
It's quite a drive. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's gorgeous up there. We've done both sunrise and sunset at Haleakala, and it is an amazing sight for sure.
Highly recommend sunset. Sunrise is when everybody else goes. It's the very touristy thing. And then we had some locals say, go try sunset. And so instead of having 300 or 400 cars in the parking lot and, it's just jammed to the wall with people, there's like 20 cars in the parking lot and you feel like the mountain is your own. Like it was magic. And it was a lot warmer at sunset than it was at sunrise. And you didn't have to get up at 3 a.m. to drive from wherever your resort is to get up there in time. So sunset's the thing to do. Wait, I should strike that. Hey everybody, go do
sunrise.
Go do sunrise.
Yeah, do sunrise.
Sunset's horrible.
Sunset's horrible.
But do take a jacket. I'm so glad they told us to take a jacket.
Yeah.
It's windy up there.
Cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's also the best spot to do stargazing is up there. And which is where being there at sunset is amazing because you just let the sun go down and then everybody leaves. And so instead of like 20 cars up there, there's like 4 cars up there. Alicia and I literally spent probably 2 or 3 hours up there. It got pitch black. And just watched the stars, did some photography, and like the Milky Way is like in your face. It is the smallest and most alone, even though I was with my wife, feeling that I think I've ever had in my life. Like it's incredible. So we'll have to take you up there next time.
Yeah.
We'll do this right.
For sure.
Add that to the list. 37 switchbacks. Add it to the list.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, the tour was great, but I do wish that we had just gotten our own vehicle and kind of driven it. There were some other people, a lot of people on the ship, but some that we had gotten to know who rented a car and drove it themselves, and they really enjoyed that. So the tour was great, and Maui would have been the only place, like Rachel had said, where I would have felt comfortable doing my own thing. And so I do wish that we had kind of done it ourselves instead.
I remember texting you guys when you were there on Maui, and I said, "Hey, go! If you can, like I didn't know if you were on a tour bus or not, but I was like, if you can, go to Kula Lodge, which is this beautiful, like I think they have some hotel rooms and stuff like there, but it's an amazing restaurant.
Yeah."
And on the way down the mountain, and I think Doc replied back. He goes, "Oh yeah, we just drove by it."
We took a picture of it for you because we're like, "Oh yeah, there's that place. There it is." Yeah.
Cool. And then off in Honolulu the next day, yeah?
Yeah. Which was bittersweet, but also we were getting off in Hawaii. Like, I couldn't really be mad about it.
Right. The best place to end a cruise.
Yeah.
And then stay in Hawaii. Yeah, we actually did that last October. So,
see?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So were there any special guests or lectures? You mentioned of folks from Aulani were on to do a bunch of cultural stuff. Was there anybody else on?
Yep, we had one other special guest on board that I'll let Rachel talk about because she got to know him.
So the actual, like, one of the first days we were there, I was meeting some friends at the bar that I just met, and a gentleman came over and they said, "Do you want to meet the man who drew Mickey Mouse?" And I was like, "What? Who says that?" And we're on a Disney cruise, like, you're weird.
Right.
And they're like, "No, like, even look at your key card, the Mickey Mouse on your key card." I was like, "Yeah, this is the artist." And I was like, okay. They were like, "His name is Don Williams and everyone calls him Ducky." And I was like, perfect. So I got to meet Mr. Don Williams, like, first, and on one of the first days that we got sailing. And we just stayed connected with them and got a chance to chat them multiple times during the cruise. And he's the most humble, amazing, generous human being I've probably ever met, and he is wicked talented.
Wow.
Like, he is the artist of all the Disney characters.
Yeah.
And he a couple of times just pulled out a napkin and, like, drew a picture, and I was, like, beside myself. Like, what is happening right now? Someone needs to pinch me. I'm in the middle of the Pacific, and this is literally the famous artist.
Did you know who he was ahead of time?
I figured it out rather quickly, because if any of you or anyone listening has ever gotten a lithograph from the cruise line, he's the artist on it.
Yes.
So his signature is already there. They did present us with lithographs on this cruise because it was we were crossing, it was a one way and we were crossing back into the US.
Yeah.
And so his signature was on there, and I was joking with him one day and I was like, "Hey, you going to sign my lithograph?" And he was like, "My signature's already on it, Rach." And I was like, "Yeah," but he's like, "Of course I will sign it." So, and everybody on the ship kind of took him up on that too. So, like, every single person stood in line to try to get his signature. I didn't stand in line. But we got his signature on the same lithograph, and it was really cool to meet him, get to hear his story, and sit around some bars and just kind of chat.
And I will say that you guys were generous enough to get a napkin for us as well, which we really, really, really appreciate.
Yes, it's amazing.
And it's got Daisy and Pluto on there, and it's cute as hell.
Can I just say, like, Alicia's response was everything to us when we were like telling the story about Don Williams, and then she goes, "Ducky," and I was like, "Oh, this is going to go well." Yes, we made friends enough, and he was gracious enough to draw on a napkin for you guys, and it was the least we could do. You guys were the reason we were able to take this trip. You are the best friends that we have, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable, I guess, leaving under different circumstances. But really, we would have rather you been with us, right? So next time, you're going with us.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Fair
For
enough.
sure.
We'll just have to give Clyde some chill pills so he doesn't.
So he doesn't rip the house apart.
Right. Exactly. We'll figure it out.
Something like that.
Let's talk food a little bit.
Yeah.
Any highlights? I'm assuming you guys did Palo once or 5 times.
2 or 3, yeah, sure, yeah.
3.
Only 3. Wow.
Did you do any brunches? I know not all of you are brunch people.
Andrew and I are brunch fans. He was not feeling great the morning we were supposed to do brunch, so we did end up canceling. So we did not do brunch. We did dinner twice, and then one morning for brunch, we went up because I had a Palo Bloody Mary on the Wish, and could not stop thinking about it. And I was like, I need a Palo Bloody Mary. So we had asked, like, can we come up to the bar and I just want the Bloody Mary. And they said, yeah, sure. And so there are seats at the bar there. And if they're available, you can sit down and have a drink. And at dinner, you can order food up there. At brunch, it's not quite as easy, but there are certain things that you can order. So we did get to experience a little taste of the brunch, but we got the Bloody Mary, which was really what I wanted.
But that's a tip that I didn't know about.
That's fantastic.
So
edit that out.
Well, I'll beat that out. Sorry.
Top secret.
I was trying to think back, like the the Fantasy, the Dream, and then the Wish. I don't know if there is a bar up at Palo. Is there?
There's
the
well, there
Meridian
is, but yeah, it's
and the
outside of the
Rose.
restaurant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the Magic and the Wonder, the bar is like it's almost like a
Inside.
service bar, but it does have some stools there that you don't normally notice.
Yeah.
And so when we had dinner there one night, there were some people sitting at the bar, and the server did mention, yeah, if it's available, you can have a seat at the bar and have stuff up there. But
No
you still have
reservation
to
required.
no, but you do still have to be dressed in the dress code.
Right.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
That makes sense.
But you can do shorts at Palo now.
For brunch.
For brunch.
Oh.
Just brunch. Dinner,
Just
still no
brunch.
shorts.
Okay. That's still a pretty big change.
And it changed halfway through our cruise. So half of the people on our cruise had the old guidelines, and then half had the new.
Interesting.
Huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. How is main dining? How are those rotations?
Our servers were great.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Even our head server, he was just amazing. And I kept asking random questions. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make you work for your money. How many ice machines are on the ship? I was asking some weird ones. But I got an answer. So on the Wonder, there are 350 ice machines.
Wow.
That's
You're
a
welcome.
lot. Yeah.
I'm
Thank
here
you.
all day. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So every day Rachel would come in with a question, and it was usually something that he didn't know off the top of his head.
Right.
And so he was like, okay, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And the next night he would come over. Okay, here's your answer. What's my next question? And so that was kind of a fun cadence. So yeah, on the shorter cruises, I know I don't feel like you get much exposure to the head server.
Yeah.
Or if you do, it's usually because there's an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
But on these longer ones, we've had a lot more interaction. And this one, yeah, he came over and chatted with us every night. And we had a lot of great conversations and kind of fun things like the questions. So that our team was really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
That's really good. Yeah, we've had some not great ones the past couple of times. So that is good to hear that you had a good crew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The food, I would say, was mediocre.
Mm.
It's cruise food. And I will say in this instance, when you're booking transition cruises, the port that you're coming out of is where your food is sourced from.
Yeah.
So we had a lot more gamier meats, right? It all came from Australia. We
Right.
didn't have what Americans think of as orange juice, don't get me started, or bacon, or like there were just some nuances that were a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the sodas. Like a lot of people, when the waves were rough, were asking for ginger ale. Well, they didn't have fountain ginger ale like they normally do. So
Right.
it was in a can, so you had to pay for it. So little things like that I feel like our group, it was an adjustment. Like we weren't really thinking that was going to be the case, but we got over it very quickly. But there were a lot of people that were they didn't realize they were used to everything that we can get in America. And even at some of the bars, like the beers and the wines, but even like some of the cocktails that we love, they still had them on the menu, but they had to modify. Like there's a gin tea tonic at the pub that we love.
Yeah.
We order every time we go there, and the tea was different. And so some of the ingredients were different. So just something to be aware of. I don't think that it took away from our cruise at all, but if you're coming in with expectations that it's going to be just like it is when you cruise out of America,
Yeah.
you got a level set to understand that it's going to be different because they're sourcing differently for sure.
Yeah.
Got it.
Usually on the longer cruises, they'll rotate the menus for the rotational dining. Like there's an A menu and a B menu, and then occasionally they'll do like a special menu. Do you remember any of the special menus that they did for those?
They rotated in. We had the frozen menu one night, like that was from the Wish. Like I had a lot of that. So they incorporated in some of the special menus. They still had all the traditional ones, like our last night at Tiana's. They still had the New Orleans menu and the band. And I mean, there were definitely some special ones on there, but I don't think there was anything that other than the frozen one that I can think of that was terribly notable as a special menu.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit more, all three dining rooms were serving the same thing every night, more so than in the past. Like on the shorter cruises, right, it's the different, it rotates with the restaurant. In this case, it was like, all right, this is the menu, but guess what? It's the menu at all three. So don't try to sneak in somewhere else. It's all the same.
Because the fleet basically has 2 menus for each of like 3 restaurants on the ship. And even with like the kind of bread and butter, like 7-night cruises, you've got those 2 rotations. And then you've got like a pirate night. So that's the everybody's serving the same thing there. So you're just getting a lot more of those, you know, this is whatever's happening on this night and everybody's getting that. So, okay.
Yeah.
And we did have pirate night and we did have the pirate night menu. That was still a thing.
No comment. Got it.
Yeah, no comment. But we, you know, it's 15 nights. So there were nights where we would just order a salad, right?
Yeah.
Or just order, I got the grilled chicken a lot. Like it's just the grilled chicken patty, right? And I paired it with maybe an appetizer. You physically can't eat like that for 15 days straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of had to pick and choose. And then the server was great and got the chef to make us a couple special menu items that were kind of off the menu.
Yeah.
And he did that a couple nights, which was really just a change in pace, and it was delicious.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually started from a conversation we actually had with our head server, because our head server was from India. And so Bill had gotten to talking to him about, Indian food and how much we love Indian food and curries and whatnot. And so he told our server, and he talked to one of the chefs, and he made us this amazing chicken curry as like a special add-on one night. And it was so good that they did it for us another night too, because it was delicious.
Yeah. I have heard that. I've heard from some other folks that they do that. Like if you ask for curry, just because a lot of the chefs back there have a lot of experience doing delicious curries, that they'll make it for you if you ask. Very nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll pull some of that stuff off of the crew mess menu, because they're trying to cater to all of these, local traditions and foods of people from around the world. And so they have a lot of those, comfort menu items from home. And home happens to be India or the Philippines or wherever. They have a lot of that stuff going on in the crew mess, and so they can kind of borrow a little bit out of there if somebody's interested. So don't abuse it, obviously, but there are options.
Yeah,
they said the crew curry was like on point if you could get some of that. So
I've heard that.
We were gunning for it.
Yeah.
Did you all do fish extenders on this cruise?
Bill and Rachel did.
We did. I was really proud of ours. So, Bill's father is retired Navy and had told stories about the equator crossing and things like that in the past. So Bill actually had Zippo lighters made with the indent, and I don't have one, but it literally had the Disney Wonder on it, and it had the shellback, and then it had the date. So it had the actual date that we crossed.
Yeah.
And we gave those along with koozies in our fish extenders. There were a couple of I think, notable things that we got in return, but not as much as I would have hoped for. So
it can be a crapshoot with fish extenders for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But I always love walking around the ship and putting stuff in the little, it's like you're delivering mail, right? It's super fun.
Yeah.
And I will say Bill wrote the most heartwarming note that went with ours from his experience and just really trying to remember his father. And so Meredith and I both helped edit it, multiple revisions. But I was really proud that he was able to do that. And I think it helped really honor his dad. So it was a really good experience for us.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Do y'all have any tips for folks? I mean, I think you mentioned a little bit before, but I know that Disney significantly changed their pricing of this itinerary for 2025. And there was a bunch of folks who canceled out of 2024 and, rebooked for 2025. And then, I think Disney hopefully is going to be doing this into the future as well. So if somebody's looking to do, the Sydney to Hawaii leg, again sometime in the future, any tips or suggestions? I think you've given a bunch already, but any kind of things you want to circle back on or add to?
Pack less.
Yeah.
you have access to laundry rooms. Yes, it's like putting on combat gear to do so, but do it.
Yeah.
Take an extra luggage, right? Take an empty one because you're going to fill
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bill and Rachel were wise and did that. Andrew and I were not. And so we were very strategic about our packing and took advantage of Bill and Rachel's extra suitcase quite a bit because we needed it.
I was
15
there
days. Yeah.
I was there when she was unpacking, and Rachel go like, "Oh, this is theirs. Oh, this one's theirs. Oh, this one's theirs too." I was like, "What? Did you just pack for them? Like, what's going on here?" And then she said, "No, they forgot to bring an extra suitcase." I was like, "Oh, that's a rookie move."
Yeah.
I would say high level, be strategic with your Sydney flight, right? Give yourself enough time to kind of like adjust a little bit.
Yeah.
Do not believe all the horror stories with Australian customs because it was not a thing. I mean, you have to go through customs, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And you cannot bring firearms and things like that. But
yeah.
I mean, people were like, you have to have your medication in its original prescriptive bottle and it has to be sealed. And I was like, that was not true. So, you plan for it like you would any long-term vacation.
Yeah.
Experience the islands. Do everything that you can based on whatever your budget allows and go for it. My thoughts that you could stay on the ship in Fiji, or if you're like me and you have to get in the water to say you were a survivor, do it and enjoy it. It was a trip of a lifetime. I don't think I would have done anything different. Mara, would you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we already touched on is just, level setting expectations that you're coming from a different country. So things aren't going to be the same as you're used to in America, but it's still amazing. It's fantastic. Do all of the things. I mean, just get out there and do it and have fun. We met so many amazing people and just had such a great time.
Yeah. Make friends. Don't be scared to just walk up to somebody and introduce yourself. Like, you're all in it together, right? For those 15 days. And we all share those memories now, and we'll talk about it really for the rest of our lives because it was kind of epic.
And I will say, if you're thinking about taking this trip and you have kids, I think this was probably the most amazing trip. There were 119 children on board. So we were watching sometimes and they would do character meet and greets. They were playing red light, green light. There were like 4 or 5 kids playing red light, green light with Chip and Dale and Goofy. Or they had a dance party with the princesses. There were princesses on like 3 different levels in the lobby doing meet and greets, and they were playing music and they were just having a dance party because there was just so few kids on board that they had the time of their lives. So if you're wondering about, is this something that we should take with the kids? The kids will have an amazing time for sure.
What was the occupancy level? Do you know?
There were 1,500 and some on board. So the rooms they said were, I think, almost like 90% occupied. Yeah. But it was just usually 2 to a room, 1 to a room.
Right.
So we were like half occupancy.
Yeah.
So there was like between 1,500 and 1,600 guests on board total.
So it's very similar to like the Panama Canal cruises that we've done, where you just get a bunch of couples that are usually not timed friendly for school vacations and things like that. So, if you can swing it, those longer cruises are definitely fantastic opportunities to get a little bit more magic.
And a lot more characters just walking the decks. Like, just walking around on deck 4, you would just see like Minnie Mouse, and you were like, that used to happen way back in the day, but like, okay.
Would you do this itinerary again?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yes, like the itinerary was amazing, but I would say no, just because it was so amazing. Like, I want to experience something different. So just my personal preference, probably not. I would want to do something new, but not for any other reason because, I mean, yes, the cruise itself was amazing and I would absolutely be willing to do it again and would recommend it. But I want to do a transatlantic now. I want to do the one up in Ireland and the British Isles and whatever. Like, so I want to do a different cruise, but that's the only reason I would say probably not.
That's totally fair.
That's true. So Bill and I are huge fans of Cozumel. We love Cozumel. Yeah. And every time he's like, we should just book a week in Cozumel. And we still haven't done it. Yeah. So we were in American Samoa and we were both just so taken back. And he said, we should come do a week in American Samoa. And I said, okay, this sounds familiar. We say this and we don't do it.
Yeah.
I said, if anything, what this is telling us is like how beautiful other places in the world are. And
Yeah.
I'm not done exploring.
Mm.
So if we're standing in American Samoa right now, right? And it is this beautiful, what else have we not seen?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's where I was kind of pushing the envelope to say, could I come back here? Absolutely. But why? I want to go see something else.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Travel more.
Yeah.
I definitely love the long, like Panama was the long one. This one's the long one. I am sold on the
Yeah.
longer cruises.
We love the longer cruises.
They're my favorite. Yeah, they're definitely the way to go. So the longer itineraries, I would absolutely advocate for sure.
Cool. What's next?
I don't know. Nothing else this year, that's for sure.
My vacation is blown. We got to spend another couple days in Hawaii after we docked. And I think Bill and I both fell in love with Hawaii. And there's so much more to see there that we didn't get to see.
Yeah.
So I could see us going back to Hawaii. You know, I just said the same thing. Go see something different. But there's more to see in Hawaii.
Yeah.
There's so much to see in Hawaii.
It was beautiful. And I loved the people there too. Like it was great. I want to say aloha, right? It was good. So maybe that, I don't know, next year's 20. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Andrew and
I talked about, what was it, the Italian Riviera, like doing a med cruise or something, just because Italy, France, those are on our bucket list. Like we have, family history from both of those. And so that's a way to kind of experience some of that and get a taste of it before we really like do trips to deep dive. Probably not 25, maybe 26.
Yeah.
But that's definitely on our list. And we booked a placeholder on this cruise. So we've got to book something soon,
going
but
somewhere.
I don't know what yet.
Yeah.
Well, you always want to do a placeholder when you're on a cruise if you don't have another one planned.
Yep.
And with the rule, you have to travel within 5 years or you lose your castaway status.
Yes, that is true now.
Yeah. They changed that. They just announced that like 2 or 3 months ago. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I have thoughts, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
That's a different episode.
Yes. Yeah. So the Mediterranean cruise used to be on my bucket list. And then I looked at the itinerary. I'm like, it's just go, 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 go. It's port day, port day, port day, port day, port day. And I'm like, I want to see all these ports, but I'm going to be exhausted
Yeah.
at the end of it.
That's very true.
Oh, yeah. So I've gone back on that. I was like, I want to see all these ports, but I don't know if I want to do it on a cruise.
My next itinerary that I really want to do that we haven't done, and they don't do them very often, but like the 10 or 11 night Southern Caribbean and hit the ABC Islands down off of South America and I want to see there because those aren't as frequently traveled. I mean, there are other cruise lines that go there kind of regularly. Disney is not one of them, at least not today with their current fleet, but I want to see down there. That's my next kind of like, I need to go do. So
we had that booked in 2020 and then it got canceled. So that's for sure still on the list too.
Oh, that's right. That's what you guys booked on board 4 years ago. This coming week?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we transited Panama Canal 4 years ago tomorrow or today. Something. It's one of those.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming up.
Yeah.
It wasn't today. It was coming
wasn't
up
Mario Day.
Yeah. Okay.
Today is March 10th. It's Mario Day.
Mario Day. Yeah.
Why is it Mario Day?
MARIO March MAR 10.
Oh, it's my wedding anniversary. I didn't know that.
Happy
anniversary, babe. If you're listening, I love you.
Well, any other parting shots you want to leave folks who are listening?
It was amazing. If you're thinking about it, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dream big and then just go do it. Because, listen, I don't have enough time to talk about it. It was great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, y'all. It was so great reconnecting with you. It's been so long since we've seen you.
Forever.
Like
It's been
18
longer
hours
for
ago.
me. I miss you guys.
It has. It's been 3 weeks for you. Awesome. Well, thanks, y'all. We'll have you on again after the next adventure.
Sounds good.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Love you guys. We are not affiliated with Disney or their subsidiaries. These are our personal opinions and suggestions based on our own experiences. We recommend working with a travel agent or contacting Disney directly to plan your perfect vacation.
If you have questions or suggestions or would like to be interviewed on our show to share your Disney experience, please send an email to podcast@ourmousecapades.com.
Follow us on socials. We are at Our Mousecapades. Please rate and review in your podcast app to help people find us.
Thanks for listening. We'll be in your ears next week.
Thank you for flying Star Tours. Bye-bye.
Are you hitting
All right.
stop or
Cool.
what you doing? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to hit
Did you
stop.
stop?
I'm about to.
So you go.